So, you know, think about when a massive traditional corporation decides to rebrand. The success of that is usually a fairly clean spreadsheet.
Right, it's very black and white.
Exactly. You change the corporate logo, you launch the new product line, and at the end of the quarter, the earnings report just points to the bottom line and tells you if it worked. But when modern royalty rebrands, success and failure, honestly is measured by the geographic location of a $200,000 diamond on a missing micro-pavé ring.
It completely breaks the standard public relations model. Because, I mean, how do you measure the return on investment of a missing accessory? Or, a hidden birthstone? Or a whispered family feud?
You really can't put that on a spreadsheet, and that is exactly the mission of today's deep dive.
Oh.
We are dissecting the incredibly complex intersection of personal branding, intense media algorithms, and what it actually means to be modern celebrity royalty.
And we really have a massive stack of sources for you today.
We do. It's a real mix of international news reports, royal commentary from publications like The Guardian and The Express, and some incredibly forensic jewelry analysis from Meghan's Mirror and professional diamond experts.
Which is totally necessary when you are dealing with a subject this polarized. You have to look past the official press releases and really examine the subtext.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're framing this deep dive around Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's recent 2026 trip to Australia. But to really grasp the mechanics of this trip, you need to hold two very contrasting images in your mind.
Okay, so the first one is from a few years ago, right?
Yeah, first, picture 2018. They are on an official royal tour of Australia. Meghan is newly pregnant, the streets are absolutely lined with rapturous crowds, and they are formally meeting the Australian Prime Minister. I mean, it was peak, undeniable royal glamour.
At the time, that 2018 tour was viewed globally as the future of the British monarchy. It was this massive injection of star power into a very ancient institution.
Right. Now, fast forward to this recent 2026 visit. The Australian press universally dubbed it a Clayton's tour.
A Clayton's tour.
Yeah, so for those of you who might not be familiar with classic Australian slang, Clayton's was an old non-alcoholic beverage, and it was marketed with the slogan, "the drink you have when you're not having a drink."
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it's become shorthand down there for a substitute or like a fake version of something. So the media was essentially calling this the royal tour you have when you aren't actually working royals.
And that nickname perfectly encapsulates the structural tension of this whole 4-day visit. Because they no longer hold that official working royal status.
Which means they don't get the sovereign grant anymore.
Exactly. They no longer receive taxpayer-funded logistics. So the entire trip was a precarious balancing act. They were trying to walk a very thin tightrope between genuine public service and, frankly, glaringly necessary private enterprise.
This intense need to fund their security and lifestyle through a luxury brand creates a massive vulnerability, which we will definitely get to. But first, let's look at how they generate their public goodwill, because the philanthropic side of this trip was robust.
It was very active.
Yeah, the sources detail them celebrating Australia's new social media ban for kids. They were photographed on the ground, serving frittatas to homeless women. And Harry did a highly publicized, very vulnerable Q&A for Movember, the men's health charity.
That Movember appearance was honestly a masterclass in modern celebrity vulnerability. I mean, he didn't just show up and cut a ribbon.
Right, he was really in it.
He actively dismantled the stiff upper lip. He admitted that fatherhood is, in his words, messy. He spoke very openly about using therapy to essentially cleanse himself of his past traumas so he could break generational cycles for his own children.
And when a male public figure, especially a prince who lost his mother under such tragic, highly scrutinized circumstances, speaks that candidly about mental health, it genuinely moves the needle for a charity like Movember. It sparks conversations in living rooms globally.
Absolutely.
But this goodwill generation is paired with a very aggressive commercial engine.
Well, it has to be. I mean, the overhead of their independence is staggering.
Exactly. So alongside serving frittatas, we saw these exclusive commercial dinners where tickets were going for around $3,000.
$3,000 for a dinner.
Yeah, and Meghan headlined a wellness retreat called Her Best Life, where a VIP ticket, which secured you a group photo with her, cost $3,199. All of this happening while she's concurrently promoting her as ever lifestyle brand.
Right. The brand that sells jams, spice kits, and candles, and markets itself as a love language.
Yeah. So it's the jarring pivot from a homeless shelter to a $3,000 wellness VIP pass where the public friction really occurs.
It feels almost like a retail strategy. Like the loss leader.
Oh, that's an interesting way to put it.
Right, you offer something highly valuable for free in this case. Their vulnerability, their time at a homeless shelter, the emotional heavy lifting to build the goodwill necessary to sell the high-margin product later.
Well, look, isn't this just like a corporate spin-off of the Monarchy? They're essentially independent contractors now. Harry reportedly inherited over $20 million from his mother and great-grandmother, sure, but funding a global head of state level security apparatus out of pocket will drain that very quickly. Can we really blame them for charging $3,000 a ticket?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the mechanical issue here isn't the simple fact that they need revenue. It is how that monetization clashes with the specific brand identity they're trying to project.
The optics of it.
Exactly. The sources highlight a persistent grifter narrative that really dogs them. Fairly or unfairly, there is a vocal segment of the public that views them as simply cashing in on a royal title they actively walked away from.
So it's a profound branding dissonance.
Precisely. Charities like Lifeline absolutely received a massive, undeniable financial boost from their presence in Australia. But when you charge over $3,000 for a girl's weekend wellness retreat in the middle of a crippling global cost of living crisis, it reads as extremely tin-eared to many.
The philanthropy says, "We are in the trenches with you." But the ticket price says, "We are elite Hollywood luxury."
Right.
And because they have transitioned from public servants to a private luxury brand, their bodies literally become billboards. They are the product, which explains why a minor wardrobe change suddenly has massive PR and financial implications.
The media isn't just evaluating their itineraries anymore. They're aggressively zooming in on their fingers.
Which brings us to the most illuminating and frankly bizarre saga of this entire tour, the great mystery of Meghan's missing engagement ring.
Oh, this was everywhere.
Everywhere. Now, to understand why a missing ring dominated the global news cycle, we have to explain the mechanics of the ring itself. Harry designed this piece working directly with Queen Elizabeth's official jeweler, Cleve & Company. It is a trilogy ring, which is a design that traditionally symbolizes the past, the present, and the future.
And the stones themselves carry immense historical and financial weight.
The center stone is a massive, cushion-cut diamond sourced from Botswana, a country where they fell in love.
And for those who aren't diamond experts, a cushion cut is essentially a square or rectangle with rounded corners, kind of like a pillow. It's an older, very romantic cut that really maximizes the stone's fire.
That center stone alone is valued at roughly £115,000. Then it is flanked by two smaller side stones taken directly from Princess Diana's personal collection.
And the sources value those at about £4,000 each. So you have a piece of jewelry worth around $200,000.
But the monetary value is totally secondary to the provenance. Those side stones make the ring a wearable piece of British royal history. I mean, it is an artifact.
But in 2019, Meghan decided to update the ring's architecture. She swapped out the original, thicker yellow gold band for a very delicate micro-pavé band.
Now, micro-pavé means that instead of a solid band of metal, the ring is encrusted with tiny microscopic diamonds, so it looks like a continuous glittering line.
Aesthetically, it is stunning. It's a very modern update. But mechanically, it introduces a significant vulnerability.
Right, because the jewelry experts in our sources note that a resizing or an aesthetic alteration like this is relatively cheap, usually between 75 and 250 pounds. But to set those tiny microdiamonds, a jeweler actually has to drill into the gold, removing the metal that gives the ring its tensile strength.
You are fundamentally weakening the structural integrity of the exact foundation that is holding up a very heavy, very expensive central diamond.
Which sets the stage for the mystery. Because the ring vanished.
Just completely disappeared from photos.
It went missing from Meghan's hand for 8 months in 2023. It briefly reappeared, and then it was conspicuously absent again during their recent high-profile trips to Jordan and, of course, Australia. She was photographed repeatedly wearing just a simple gold wedding band.
This raises an important question. Why does a missing ring cause an international incident? And this absence really birthed an absolute frenzy of speculation.
Oh, the internet went wild.
Yeah. When you synthesize the sources, 3 distinct theories emerge as to why the ring disappeared. And it is fascinating to see how the public gravitates toward the theory that best fits their pre-existing biases.
Let's break them down. Theory 1 seems to be the most practical.
Right. Theory 1 is purely about hygiene and protocol. In Jordan, one of their marquee events was visiting the King Hussein Cancer Center.
So interacting with very sick patients.
Exactly. And historically, Royal women, and we see this frequently with the Princess of Wales, remove large, cumbersome diamonds when visiting healthcare settings. It is standard operating procedure to avoid accidentally scratching a patient or, carrying bacteria within the intricate settings of a large ring.
Okay, that makes perfect logical sense for a hospital ward. But wait, that only explains a single afternoon in Jordan. That doesn't explain the ring vanishing for 8 straight months in 2023, or being left in a jewelry box during glamorous evening events in Sydney and Melbourne. What is the structural excuse there?
That leads us directly to theory 2, which is maintenance. Stefano Pietrini, who is a prominent jewelry expert cited in the sources, pointed out the physics of that micro-pavé band we discussed.
A weakened foundation.
Yes, his professional assessment was that because the metal had been compromised to fit the tiny diamonds, the setting holding the massive Botswana diamond had simply become dangerously loose. The ring was sidelined for essential long-term repairs to prevent a catastrophic loss of the stones.
Again, physics dictates it needed repair. That is a perfectly boring, rational explanation. But we know the internet doesn't thrive on rational explanations.
It definitely doesn't.
Which brings us to the third theory, where the algorithm really took over.
Theory 3 is family tension. The British tabloids completely bypassed the physics of jewelry repair and aggressively pushed a narrative that Prince William was, quote-unquote, committed to finding the ring.
Wait, really? Committed to finding it?
Yeah. The heavily implied narrative was that William was deeply concerned for the safety of his late mother's diamonds, turning a potentially loose prong into this sprawling saga about royal familial distrust, negligence, and a brotherly feud.
And here's where it gets really interesting and honestly absurd. Just look at the reality of the situation in Australia. You have Prince Harry sitting in a room offering exactly the kind of modern, emotionally intelligent transparency critics always beg the royals for.
Right, doing the actual work.
He is openly discussing the mechanics of childhood trauma, the haunting impact of his mother's death, and the urgent need for men's mental health resources. And yet, what dominates the global headlines? The geographic coordinates of his mother's diamonds on his wife's left hand.
It really exposes the fatal flaw in their current brand architecture. They desperately want to be seen as serious global philanthropists leveraging their platform for critical issues. But the media ecosystem, and by extension, the public is still primarily addicted to the soap opera.
We just want the drama.
The algorithms reward the feuds, the perceived slights, and the glamorous mysteries far more than they reward a discussion on generational trauma.
But what is really brilliant here is that Meghan is acutely aware of this microscopic scrutiny. She knows the camera lenses are zoomed in on her hand.
Oh, she definitely knows.
The sources reveal that when she removes that $200,000 engagement ring, she doesn't just leave a blank space. She replaces it with jewelry loaded with very intentional, heavily curated messaging. She understands that when you can't control the headline, you communicate through the wardrobe.
She uses fashion as a silent dialogue. It is a highly sophisticated communication strategy.
Let's look at the evidence from Melbourne. She steps out wearing casual Australian brands. She has a coat by Friends with Frank, jeans by Rolla's. She is paying immediate, visible respect to the host country's domestic economy.
Right, a classic royal diplomacy move.
Then she wears a t-shirt that simply says, Mama. But it's not just any shirt. It's merchandise from the Alliance of Moms, which is a Los Angeles-based charity that supports pregnant teens in the foster care system. She is literally wearing her philanthropic portfolio on her chest.
But it is the replacement rings where the narrative gets incredibly intricate.
Yes. To replace the missing engagement ring, she wore these very delicate gold bands by an independent designer named Logan Hollowell. And if you zoom all the way in which she knew, the photographers would do those rings feature the astrological constellations for Leo and Virgo.
A subtle, sweet nod to her and Harry's star signs.
Exactly. It is a way of projecting an image of unshakable romantic unity to the world without ever having to issue a PR statement defending their marriage.
And that kind of hidden, intimate detailing is a defining characteristic of her brand. The diamond experts in the sources point to another piece she wears frequently, which is her eternity ring. This was a gift from Harry celebrating their first anniversary, and it carries an estimated value of 80,000 pounds, or roughly 100,000 US dollars.
So what does this all mean when we compare her to the rest of the royal family? Because an 80,000-pound eternity band is a serious museum-level piece of jewelry.
It is, but what makes it fascinating is the hidden architecture. On the underside of the band, physically resting against her skin, Harry had their family birthstones embedded. An olive green peridot, representing power for Meghan. a flawless green emerald representing rebirth for their son Archie, and a blue sapphire representing protection for Harry.
It is a profoundly personal, hidden talisman.
It really is. But going back to your question about comparing it to the rest of the royals, the contrast is striking, and it reveals two entirely different philosophies of modern power.
Because the palace PR machine constantly pushes this narrative of the royals being frugal and mindful of the taxpayer.
Right. And the experts in our sources specifically contrast Meghan's 80,000-pound bespoke ring with the eternity ring worn by Kate, the Princess of Wales. Kate's ring, a gift from William after Prince George was born, is an Anushka white gold eclipse ring. It retails for about 1,500 pounds.
1,500 pounds versus 80,000 pounds. I mean, that is not an accident. That is a strategy. Exactly. Kate's long-term strategy as a future queen has always been to blend priceless, state-owned historical jewels, like Diana's massive sapphire engagement ring, with highly accessible high-street brands.
It seemed more relatable.
Yeah, she will wear a priceless tiara, but pair it with Zara earrings or, a 1,500-pound eternity band. It is a deliberate effort to project approachability. She is visually signaling to the public, I am the steward of the crown, but I am also a practical mother.
While Meghan's choices signal something completely different. By wearing a $100,000 ring with hidden birthstones, she isn't just showing off wealth. If we look at the mechanics of it, she's essentially taking the concept of the crown jewels and privatizing them.
Wow, that's a brilliant way to frame it.
Right. Traditional royal jewels belong to the state. They are worn out of duty and returned to the vault. Meghan's jewelry choices reflect a Hollywood-level curation of an entirely decentralized royal narrative. It is unapologetic, high-end luxury that belongs solely to her. It is an intimate, highly monetizable, personal brand over which the actual British monarchy has absolutely zero jurisdiction. She isn't trying to be a relatable civil servant. She is building an aspirational, independent dynasty.
Which brings us back to the core tension of their entire post-royal experiment. They are trying to, as the Guardian article so perfectly phrased it, cosplay royal life on their own terms.
They want the massive global platform to do good, impactful work.
Like the Movember campaign.
Exactly, but they demand total control over the narrative, and they have to fund the entire apparatus themselves. And what they are discovering in places like Australia is that you cannot decouple the philanthropic platform from the glamorous soap opera. The public's willingness to listen to the charity work is inextricably linked to their obsession with the luxury, the drama, and the missing diamonds.
They wanted to leave the constraints of the palace, only to find that the media ecosystem they stepped into is just as rigid and in many ways far more demanding. The metrics of success just shifted from fulfilling royal protocol to sustaining a luxury brand through sheer visibility.
It certainly makes that initial metaphor of a corporate rebrand seem almost quaint, doesn't it?
It really does. Producing a quarterly earnings report is easy. Navigating the global, real-time dissection of your personal life and family history to fund your security is infinitely harder. So, as you are listening to this, I want you to think about your own personal branding for a second.
Think about the mental calculus you do before a big meeting.
Exactly. The specific outfit you choose, the watch you put on, the way you want to be perceived. Now, take that totally normal daily anxiety and multiply it by 1 billion. Imagine a reality where every single ring you wear, every accessory you leave at home, every subtle choice of a graphic t-shirt generates global headlines.
And economic analysis of the brands you wore, and viral theories about your family's internal dynamics.
It is a staggering, almost suffocating level of visibility to navigate on a daily basis. And it leaves me with this final thought for you to mull over today. Historically, we all know exactly how traditional royal power was projected. It was visible, heavy, and undeniable.
It was massive stone castles, state-owned jeweled crowns.
Standing armies and royal decrees. But today, if you can completely dominate the global news cycle for a solid week simply by leaving a micro-pavé ring in your jewelry box, does modern royalty actually draw its power entirely from our own obsession with their personal lives?
That is the exact mechanism of modern celebrity we have to keep questioning.
Are we, the audience, the ones actually keeping the crown heavy? Something to think about until next time. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.